lesson, we're going to cover how you can get started playing blues improvised solos with the use of partial scale positions, meaning miniature scales, if you will, that move up and down the neck, and then we break those into little phrases we call licks, so you can treat those as sentences to play over certain chords. And with that method, you'll be able to improvise blues much better than you really are. So if we're playing in G, and you have some licks built for that key, and then the song, it happens to be in A, you play the same lick in A. And the idea is if you learn enough of those phrases in each key, you can improvise freely on just about any solo you need. Let's get started. So the way this lesson is designed, we're going to teach you licks that are related in the key of G and A, because if you have a phrase in the key of G, for example, and you move it up 2 frets, obviously you're transposing that phrase to the key of A. So if we learn licks that are based in closed positions, in other words, moving shapes for the keys of G and A, and then the keys of D and E, you've covered pretty much all the blues keys. And as some of us guitar players like to point out, most of the blues keys happen to line up with the big strings of the guitar. So, as you probably know, the strings going from big guy to the little guy are E, A, D, G, B, not counting the extra E. Those are all the common blues keys. So, for some reason, they match up with the strings, and that way, if we can get landing points in all of those keys, we'll be ready to rock. So we're going to start you out with a lick in D, in other words, a blues phrase in D, that we then will learn the same blues phrase up 2 frets for the key of E. So to do you one better, we're going to learn 2 phrases for each key. So we're going to start you out with key of D, lick number 1, and before we look at the tablature, let's talk about the fact that all of these phrases are built off what we call partial scales. So we have little miniature scales that move up and down the neck, in little boxes that don't include all the scale tones, and those are actually, ironically, far more useful than complete scale positions when you're improvising, because a lot of times you'll jump from partial scale to partial scale position. Let's say we're playing in this partial scale position right here. That's my partial scale. Then I'll jump up. And that's my partial scale up here. And so on and so forth. So let's look at partial scale position number 1 that our first lick will be based off when we move to the tablature. As you can see from the diagram, it says our ring finger is going to be here on the 5th string. Now, it's at either the 5th or the 7th fret. That's because we're going to use it in both those keys. If you're playing this starting at the 5th fret, it's going to be in the key of D. If you're playing this starting at the 7th fret, it's going to be in the key of E. So let's move to the 5th fret simply because that's lower in pitch, and we're going to learn the partial position in the key of D. So we're going to play starting at this note right here. We're going to move up, then go over again, and then again. And then right here, you can see that little small circle means there's a passing tone, which gives us an extra bluesy note in between. And then we move over to the 3rd string, 5th fret, and then we land, if we wish, on the next root. So this is one of the more complete partial positions because it contains an octave. So we're going to walk up like this from this partial position. And back down. And you can hear already there's a plethora of phrases that you can play from this position. They just fall out of it like, you know, overripe fruit from a tree. It's just a great shape to get to know. So let's practice this partial position number 1 up and down a few times nice and slow after the count of 2. 1, 2. Back down. Again. Back down. And so on and so forth. Okay, looking at the tablature, our key of D, lick number 1, is going to simply start with a slide in, a quick slide from 4 to 5 to that 5th fret, then jumping over here to the 3, and then bouncing back from 5 to 3. So that first 4-note phrase is like this. And then we hit the 6 here with the pinky, and then back, and then 5 and 3, and then we slide up to the 7, and then a quick slide back down, and then that same rocking phrase. So this has got a cool boogie woogie flavor to it, and if we play it nice and slowly through, it'll sound like this. Now remember, this is a moving position, so we can play that in any key. What if the song was all of a sudden in the key of G? We'd play it up here. So once again, very useful because they're moving shapes. Okay, let's practice key of D, lick number 1, slowly after the count of 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Very nice. Repeat that as much as you need before moving on. For our next lick in the key of D, lick number 2, we're moving to another partial scale position, what we call partial scale 2. And this is a classic one that most guitar players discover sooner or later in their noodling lifetimes. So what's happening here is we're going to learn this one at the 7th fret in the key of D, and then of course move it up to the 9th in the key of E real soon. But this one starts right here in the key of D at 7, and then jumps over here to the next circle, and then up 2 frets higher, and then we shift that ring finger up, and then we drop it down. Right? Now if you wanted to conclude it to the root, you would drop here on the small circle. Although some of the licks may not conclude the whole scale, that is there as your final root. So let's play that partial position together slowly after the count of 2, starting at the 7th fret on the 3rd string with the middle finger. 1, 2. Back down. Scratch all that, do it again. 1, 2. Back down. Again. Back down. All right, let's build a lick with that position. Okay, so in measure 3 of the tablature, we're going to learn key of D, lick number 2, and this is going to start at the 7th fret in the tablature from a 5 to 7 slide, and when you see those little tiny slides, that means it's just a really quick grace note slide, and then we're going to go up to the next string over, falls really easily, and then 8th fret, ring finger, and then before we move up to the 10th fret, we're going to slide from where we were, so a quick 8 to 10 slide. So that first phrase is a slide in, 6, 8, back, and then slide up, and then grab that 10, leave that ring finger down, because then we're going to strum with the right hand, right, back and forth. So we're starting into a strum with just the bottom 2 strings. So again, from the beginning of measure 3, we slide up, we slide again, strum, and now in measure 4, we're holding this position while we strum down and up, and then we're going to be hammering from the 9th fret with the middle finger up to the 10th fret with the ring finger. So this hammer motion is happening while we're strumming, and it gives it a really plaintive, bluesy, wailing sound. Hound dogs baying at the moon. But this is a really good phrase to adopt if you're a blues player. All right, so let's play lick number 2 in D, starting after the count of 2, together nice and slow. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, again. 1, 2. Very nice. Okay, time to practice these licks in real life, so to speak. So we're going to give you a crunchy blues jam in the key of D, nice and slow, and then we're going to play these together with the background. Now the secret is, after you play it with us for a while, you're going to want to play it just with the backing track, and that's included with the audio after the lesson. So be sure to not just use the training wheels version, but to then afterwards go click the audio tracks under the video screen and play along with you just being the guitar player alone on stage with the backing band. Okay, key of D, lick number 1, jamming out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. Now let's try that same game with D lick number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very cool. Now the inevitable. We're going to string D lick number 1 and D lick number 2 together over the same blues jam. So we're building a longer solo by hooking our blues licks together like Legos. Very important. 1, 2, 3, 4.